What's up, tennis fans? Sleepy Picks here. We had our qualifiers conclude for the Munich Open, so we got some first round picks to conclude. Let's get started. Here's a look at Zverev's half of the draw. First match we're going to talk about is Diallo against Sachko. Sachko coming off winning two qualifying matches against Jumer and Rayberg, both in straight sets. He moves to 8-3 on the clay this year. Diallo, on the other hand, is 0-2 on the clay with a loss in Bucharest to Molcan 6-2, 6-2, and a loss to Fonseca in Monte Carlo 6-2, 6-3. Diallo was 8-7 last year on the clay, 7-6 on the clay the year before that. Sachko was 24-16 last year on the clay, 14-17 the year before. I really like what we're seeing from Sachko. His results seem very positive on the clay. This seems to be his preferred surface. He's played the most matches here. He's got winning records on hard court and indoor hard court as well. Has never won a match on grass. Their head-to-head is 1-0 for Sachko. He beat Diallo in a challenger first round in indoor hardcourt 3-6, 6-4, 6-4. That does say a lot considering the aggressive style and serve of Diallo that Sachko was able to beat him there. I think this is going to be a very tricky matchup here for Diallo. I think, obviously Sachko having 8 wins on clay compared to Diallo having none, that's a huge weight for me. Looking at these matches, I'm going to go with Sachko to advance here. I think he's going to win. I'm going to say it's going to be straight sets. We might see a breaker in one, but I feel like this is going to be straights. I like that Sachko's played his qualifying matches. He won both of those in straight sets. You have Diallo, losing to Fonseca. Fonseca makes it out to the quarterfinals. That's a nice showing for him. But Molcan, I think 2-2 is kind of inexcusable. The one thing I did note about that Molcan match with Diallo was I did like how positive he was. He wasn't really getting down on himself too much, which we kind of see from him from time to time. But here he was extremely positive. He came in as the number 1 seed, lost in the second round in his first match. But for him to just kind of push himself, that's always very good to see how he carries himself. And that'll help down the road, I think, getting some of these tougher wins. But for now, I just haven't seen much positive things from Diallo on the clay. He's only won 9 games on the clay so far, compared to Sachko 8 matches, So I got to go Sachko. I'm going to say it's going to be straight sets. So give me Sachko to advance in straights. And guys, I do apologize in advance for some of the pronunciation. Some of these names are a little bit hard for me. Next match we have Bodek van de Zandschulp against Marc-Andre Huesler. And Huesler coming out of the qualifiers, beating Choinski and Topo. Choinski 6-4, 4-6, 6-4, and Topo 6-0, 6-1. Van de Zandschulp, we remember from Bucharest, he was able to make a nice run to the semifinals, and that semifinal against Navoni felt like whoever was going to win that match would be the tournament champion. Navoni ended up prevailing and winning the tournament. Van de Zandschulp had chances to win that match as well, not able to convert on those points, unfortunately. He's sitting at 3-1 on the clay this year, 11-10 last year, 16-12 the year before. Huesler, on the other hand, is 2-2 right now on the clay. He was 0-2 coming into this tournament, 5-6 last year, 16-10 the year before. They do have a head-to-head. It is 1-1 between these two guys. First meeting was in 2020, where Huesler was able to win in the challenger 6-7, 7-6, 7-5. That's a tough match. And then in 2024, Zandschulp able to exact his revenge in Davis Cup 5-7, 7-6, 6-3. The first match was on carpet. Second match was on indoor hard court. So not sure how much weight we can put into those. Just looking at these guys here, Huesler's a tough lefty. You got that lefty spin on the clay. That can always be very difficult. I assume that against Topo, that was kind of part of the reason, maybe to give him a little bit of trouble there. I'm going to pick Bodog van de Zandschulp to advance here. I think he's going to win this one in straight sets. I don't really know if Huesler is going to be able to provide much resistance, but to be honest, I'm not very familiar with his game. So give me van de Zandschulp to advance in straights. Next match, we have Cobolli taking on Dedura, and Dedura able to get out of qualifying. We remember Dedura from this tournament last year. He got a lucky loser spot, lost in qualifying, got a lucky loser spot, plays Denis Shapovalov, and loses by retirement. And he has this like crazy celebration, which people were a little bit up in arms about. You know, it's a give and a take. Obviously, it was Dedura's first main draw ATP win, so that means a lot to him. But to get it on retirement, people were saying he should have been a little bit more respectful. So we remember him. That happened in this tournament last year. Bergs able to beat him 6-1, 6-1 in the next round. Dedura able to get out, and he beat Shevchenko in straight sets 6-3, 7-6. Very nice win there, and Nagal in 3 sets, 6-7, 6-3, 6-3. Dedura is sitting at 16-4 on the clay. Cobolli, on the other hand, coming off that tough loss to Blockx 6-3, 6-3, where Blockx really just out-hit him and outplayed him. Blockx on a roll there in Monte Carlo. Cobolli did have a nice win over Komosana. That was a tough 3-setter. A lot of shot making that match. Again, guys, you know, I can't recommend enough that you find the highlight reel for that match. That was a very fun match to watch. Cobolli sitting at 1-1 right now. 15-6 last year. Had a very nice run on the clay last year, which is part of the reason for him having such high of a ranking. And then 10-9 the year before. Dedura sitting at 16-4, as we mentioned before this year, 25-22 last year, 34-16 the year before. Remember, this 16-4 is mostly challengers from Dedura. No head-to-head here for these guys. I tend to favor Cobolli. I do think he's the type of gamer, though, you know, even in that Shapo match, I know Shapo wasn't 100%, but even in that match last year, you know, Dedura was able to raise his game. He loved playing in front of the crowd on the big stadium. You know, some guys just get a bit of like a adrenaline rush and play a little bit better tennis, start to hit out on their balls a little bit more. I think we're going to see a little bit of that from him, but I'm not sure how he's going to be able to defend the offense coming off the Cobolli racket. So I think Cobolli's going to win this one. I think it'll be straight sets. One set might be a little bit close there with the Dedura momentum and crowd behind him. But I'm going to go with Cobolli to advance here in straight sets. Next match, we have Bergs taking on Topo. And Topo being able to get a lucky loser spot, winning his first round in the qualifiers over Blanchett 6-3, 6-4. And then losing to Huesler 6-0, 6-1. A little bit of a concerning result there, especially considering that this is Topo's first tournament since the 24th of February, where he lost to Huesler after taking the first set. So I think his game might be a little bit behind right now. I tried to look up to see what the injury was here, and I noticed that there was mentions of back issues here, so perhaps that was something that came back for him, and that's not something that you want when you're going up against a guy like Zizou Bergs. Bergs coming off a third-round appearance in Monte Carlo, beating Mannarino in the first round, Rublev in the second round, and losing to Zverev in straight sets in the third round. He is sitting at 2-1 right now on the clay, 8-8 overall. We talked about how Bergs' record this year wasn't amazing. Now he's starting to turn around. He's found the clay a little bit. 2-5 last year on the clay, 17-7 the year before. Topo 1-1 on the clay this year, 30-15 last year, 23-18 the year before. No head-to-head for these guys here. I think Bergs is going to be a little bit too much for Topo. I do kind of have questions about Bergs' potential for consistency. Bergs has days where he can hit the ball and look amazing, where he looks like a top 25 guy, and then there are days where he's just can't find the core and he looks like outside the top 75 type of guy. So I do have some questions there for how consistent Bergs is going to be, but I don't think Topo is going to be the type of guy that's going to bring that out. I think Bergs is going to be able to roll him here. I'm going to go with Bergs to advance in straight sets. And guys, this draw is starting to really shape up for Cobolli to make a nice run here. But for now, give me Bergs in straights. And here's a look at Zverev's half of the draw. Some of these matches we didn't talk about because we discussed them previously in our draw prediction and picks video. If you want a little bit more of an in-depth analysis, you can go to that video. I'll give you guys the cliff notes here. Zverev and Kecmanovic, this is a rematch of the Acapulco match that Zverev lost. I kind of find it ironic that, Zverev playing Garin in the first round of Monte Carlo, now playing Kecmanovic. He's starting to kind of get some revenge over some of these guys that have taken matches off of him. I think he's going to get through this match. He's going to be hyper-focused because he knows Kecmanovic has the ability to beat him there. Cerundolo and Struff. I think Cerundolo is going to be able to get through this match. Struff, not a great clay quarter, has been struggling a little bit on the clay. So I expect Cerundolo to kind of get right here, especially after a poor Monte Carlo performance. Engel and Kopriva. Engel obviously going to have the home crowd with him, I think. But I really like Kopriva. I love the clay court tennis that he plays. He had a little bit of success over on the South American clay court swing. So I think he's going to be able to rediscover that and get some success here. I see him advancing over Engel. And Darderi and Zhang, we talk about this match. This is a must-win for Darderi. His clay court season is kind of being turned on its head now. A guy that was so solid on clay that everybody was like, it's Darderi on clay. I'm going to pick him. Now we're having some questions here. He's not really having the success that we thought. So I think he's got to be able to come out here, take Zhang out. Zhang is not an easy customer, though. We saw him play a very tricky match against Shelton on the clay in Houston. So if Darderi isn't at his top, this could be a very tricky match. Looking at the draw, but I'm gonna have Darderi advance here. Looking at the draw overall for Zverev, for Zverev's half, I see a Zverev-Cerundolo quarterfinal. I do question Darderi being able to take out Kopriva. I think that's going to be a very tricky match for him. I think Cobolli's got an easy path to the quarters here. I think Cobolli Darderi is going to be a very interesting match. Those are two guys that are trying to find the success that they had last year on the clay. So whoever makes it out to the semifinals is going to have a shot at Zverev. But I don't see Zverev really being challenged by any of these guys. I think he's going to be able to make it out to the finals of this half of the draw. Let's take a look at the next half of the draw. Here's a look at Shelton's half of the draw. First match we're going to talk about is Bublik taking on Molcan. And we remember Molcan from Bucharest, where he was able to get out to the quarterfinals, losing a tough three-setter to Navoni. Played very, very well there and honestly dominated most. That's like for a set and a half. He looked extremely dominant against Navoni, but Navoni able to once again wrestle a match on the clay away from another opponent. Molcan did have some nice wins over Billy Harris, Jay Clark, Matteo Arnaldi, and Diallo to get out to the quarterfinal there. He's playing some pretty good clay court tennis. He's sitting at 8-2 right now on the clay. He was 38-10 last year, 10-11 the year before. So Molcan obviously a little bit more on the challenger level there with that 38-10, but some of these 8 wins this year have been on the ATP Tour level. He seems to find a little bit more comfort on the clay surface. That's where he's played the majority of his matches over his career. Bublik, on the other hand, coming off a tough straight set loss to Carlos Alcaraz, 6-3, 6-0, where nothing seemed to be working for him. He's definitely got to go back to the drawing board to see how he can hang with a guy like Carlos Alcaraz or a guy like Jannik Sinner on this clay court if he wants to make a deep run in the French Open. But he was able to get wins over Monfils and Lehechka to get out to that quarterfinal match. So those are pretty good. He's sitting at 2-1 this year on the clay. He was 23-6 last year. That was where he found the clay was where he found a lot of success. Able to make it out in the French Open, getting that upset over Draper. And then 5-6 in 2024. So hasn't really, it's kind of funny, Bublik had a winning season on the clay since 2016, and then has one 10 years down the road in 2025. And he's now looking to follow it up with either a better season or an equal season. Molcan's going to be a tough customer, in my opinion. I think especially, a guy that was able to come out of the qualifying, beating Carballes Baena in 3 sets. We know Baena's a pretty good clay quarter, and then beating Emilio Nava 6-1, 7-6. Emilio Nava with those big ground strokes, and he's able to move really well on the clay. He slides and moves very smoothly on the clay. And Molcan able to beat both of those guys, especially after dropping a 6-0 set to Baena. Maybe a little bit of nerves there. I'm going to pick Bublik. I know this is weird that I'm having trouble kind of like going through this. I just think these are the types of matches, though, that Bublik kind of struggles a little bit with. These guys that he doesn't know and doesn't have that familiarity with. Molcan's going to be grinding a lot of points down. He's going to be the guy that's going to like kind of getting up to those Bublik drop shots and playing a redrop. I'll be really interested to see how this match goes. I think Bublik's going to be a little bit too much with the serve, with the forehand, and the ability to challenge the Molcan up and back movement. So give me Bublik to advance. I think it's going to be 2 tough straight sets. Next match is Emilio Nava taking on Ben Shelton. These guys are pretty good friends here, so I'll be really interested to see how this match goes. I know there's not a head-to-head here, but I think there is a familiarity with each other's games. So there might be a little bit of a comfort there where there's not going to be much of a break-in period when these guys are start playing. Nava able to get a lucky loser spot to come in here into the draw to play Ben Shelton. He was able to beat David Goffin in the first round of qualifying, 6-4, 6-2, which is a nice turnaround considering that he played Goffin the week before, and it was a bit of a struggle, a 6-3, 6-7, 7-6 win for him, but able to make it in straight sets here. And then he lost to Molcan, who we talked about is playing pretty solid clay court tennis. I think we said he was 8-2 on the year, so not a bad loss for Nava. Nava's looking at 8-6 right now on the year on the clay, 45-19 last year, 8-9 the year before. Ben Shelton, on the other hand, he had a nice run. I believe it was to the finals of this tournament last year. He's sitting at 1-1 right now on the clay. Played Zhang and beat him in the second round of Houston, and then lost to Taranti in 3 tough sets, 6-7, 6-3, 6-4. Shelton was 7-5 last year on the clay, 8-4 the year before that. And honestly, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I get that Shelton was he was sick at Indian Wells. He might have still been recovering in Miami. Houston, I know clay's not really his best surface. Since he's won Dallas back in February, we really haven't seen great tennis from Ben Shelton, and now we're kind of going into some of the tougher times for Ben as he has to figure out a way to win here on the clay, and he's defending a lot of points. No head-to-head here for these guys, but I do question that. Is Shelton going to be able to put in a strong enough performance to beat Emilio Nava? We have a guy that's been pretty comfortable on the clay. He's going up against one of his best friends. I think there's going to be a lot of familiarity here. So I'm really curious to see how this match turns out. We picked Taranti to upset Shelton, and I kind of felt like, Shelton was favored. I think he was favored by a lot in that match to win that, and I was really surprised, especially after what we saw against Zhang, where all the points were like under 5 or 6 shots. I mean, I was like, well, Taranti's going to definitely grind him out a little bit longer. Do we think that Nava can do the same? I mean, Nava plays very good defense. He's going to get a lot of these Shelton balls back. It really just comes down to, is Emilio Nava going to be able to return the Shelton serve to the point where he's kind of pushing Shelton in a lot of these service games. I think if Shelton holds his service games really easy, it gives him a little bit more confidence to take some risks on the return games of the opponent. But if he's challenged in a lot of his service games, he tends to lose a little bit of that confidence. Guys, call me crazy. I know Shelton made it out to the finals here. I know maybe he's found success here before, but I want to pick Emilio Nava. I just think that he's playing good clay court tennis. I think this is a tough matchup for Ben, given everything. I think it's going to be Nava in 3 sets. So give me Emilio Nava to advance and bring out the first upset over Shelton in 3. Here's a look at Shelton's half of the draw. And before I talk about that, let's go through some of these matchups here, guys. We do have a draw reaction and picks where the rest of these matchups were broken down, but I'll give you guys the cliff notes on them. Griekspoor and Shapo. I feel like this is a must-win situation for Griekspoor as well. Very similar to Darderi's. Griekspoor having that success over in Dubai, getting injured. He's come back. He hasn't looked great. We know he's found previous success on the clay. Shapo really hasn't found any success on the clay recently. I think Griekspoor is going to be able to turn around, get it right here. Something tells me this is going to be a little bit of a harder match, maybe a 3-setter, but I see Griekspoor advancing there. Tsitsipas and Maroszan, I mean, you guys know my feelings on Maroszan. I just really don't like to pick him. He is extremely unreliable now after having a great few weeks in Australia. He just really hasn't shown that level since, and I think some of it is nerves, and then maybe just a lot of that pressure kind of building up on you. But we haven't seen much from Maroszan recently, so I gotta pick Tsitsipas. I think he's gonna want to get right after that tough loss. I believe it was to Cerundolo in Monte Carlo. Cilic and Altmaier. Altmaier's been playing pretty good tennis. I think the biggest thing that comes down here is Altmaier's ability to limit Cilic's serve plus 1. If he can bring Cilic into some of those longer rallies, challenge the Cilic movement, challenge the Cilic serve by returning a few more shots, making him play out some more points, I think Altmaier's got it. We'll see how that goes because obviously Cilic, if he can take the racket out of your hands with his serve plus 1, with his return plus 1, that's going to be a tough day for Altmaier. But I'm picking Altmaier. I like what I've seen from him on clay so far. Rinderknech and Michelsen. I haven't seen anything to tell me that Michelsen's going to win a match like this on the clay. Rinderknech has the head-to-head against Michelsen, so I got to pick him to advance to the round of 16. Tabilo and Fonseca, I just cannot believe that this is a first-round match. I'm just so troubled by it. Tabilo playing great tennis. Coming off that South American swing. Fonseca playing great tennis coming off of Monte Carlo quarterfinal appearance. This is going to be a very tough match, and we have to see, guys, how is Fonseca going to be able to show his consistency? So far, his last 3 losses have been to Sinner, Alcaraz, and Zverev. Zverev was a tough 3-setter on the clay. Is he going to lose to Tabilo, a guy that he's got a head-to-head record against? Probably not. So I got to pick Fonseca to advance, but definitely look to see if we have that consistency from Fonseca yet. Blockx and Hanfmann, I think this is going to be a very tricky match, and it's a very similar situation to Fonseca, but Blockx is in a little bit of a newer situation. We got to see the consistency from him. Had a pretty decent tournament in Monte Carlo, getting out, losing to Demonar. Can he recreate it? I think this is going to be tough to follow it up the next week. Hanfmann's always been a solid clay quarter. So he retired from illness in Marrakesh to Darderi, gave him a walkover. So we got to see how he's doing here. But I think if he's 100%, he's going to be able to beat Blockx. And then looking at this draw as a whole, I couldn't even tell you. I kind of like Bublik to advance out to the finals here. I think he's got a pretty nice draw. He's got to be able to turn it on here. I like Griekspoor. I think that Griekspoor Bublik quarterfinal is going to be very tough. Griekspoor having already beaten Bublik this year, so that might be a tricky match. But we know Bublik's got a lot more success on the clay, so he's a little bit more comfortable here. And Griekspoor hasn't really looked great on the clay just yet. For the other half, maybe Shelton can get through there. I mean, for me, I think Nava's going to take him out here. I think that's a weird just a weird situation there. You got two friends. They're familiar with each other's games. There's not going to be that much pressure on Nava, and I feel like if Nava plays like very freely, he's going to be able to play Shelton into some of these longer rallies, which Shelton doesn't really like to get into on the clay. I would love to see Fonseca get through here and maybe get out to the semis where he can play Bublik. I would love to see a match like that. Consistency from Fonseca is huge, and then also staying healthy. You go from losing in the second round every week to now making it out to the quarters, the finals, the semis. You got to be careful with your body. So we'll see how Fonseca handles this situation here. He's got a little bit higher expectations for sure. But for me, I'm going with Bublik to advance to the finals here. Let me know what you guys think. Put your picks in the comments. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the comments. Share the video. I have another video out on the Barcelona Open going over all the first round picks. And I have a video out for the ATP Fantasy, just kind of breaking down how I made my team. I really encourage everybody to do it, especially if you guys are big-time tennis fans. It's so fun doing a fantasy team with all the different players and following them through a tournament. This is exactly what we're doing, right? We're making picks on the tournament. We're not picking guys all the way through, but I am giving you my view of how I see each draw. So for sure, start your own team. Next video that I do for the fantasy guys, I'll have a link so that you can join our league. It'll be really fun competing against each other. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.